I'm just going to give it a few minutes just to make sure if there is anyone online that they can go ahead and hop on in here. One of the things that I want to talk about today is some of the upcoming threats of disaster with food shortages and looting on the possible horizon. So I wanted to kind of go over what we got at Walmart and Dollar Tree this week and kind of give you some tips and ideas, because now is the perfect time to start stockpiling your pantry. So even if you're a seasoned prepper or you're a new prepper, with all these holiday sales coming up, today is the time to start. So I want to show you how to do it, talk about what to look for and how you can avoid being one of those people that's panic buying, but also at the same time building your pantry. So one of the first things that we noticed this week at Walmart is that they have started to bring down their pricing on green beans and corn. I also did hear word today that the box macaroni and cheese and the box cornbread, like the Jiffy brand, those are also 50 cents. So if you're at Walmart, make sure that you're checking for those 50-cent green beans and corn. Aldi's also has the same deal going on. And you also want to make sure that you have that in your budget to go ahead and buy some up. So I always recommend when you buy, when things are that low, that's what I like to call a buy price. So like for me, my buy price for pasta is anything under $1. My buy price for like stuff like ragu would be around, I like to do it at about $1.98 these days. And then, so my buy price for canned goods is definitely 50 cents. So anytime I see any sort of canned goods at 50 cents or under, I want to go ahead and buy a case, which is like a 12-pack. So last week we went to Aldi's for our grocery shopping. I bought 12 cans of green beans and 12 cans of corn. And then this week at Walmart, I did the same. 12 cans of green beans, 12 cans of corn. So that's already 24 meals, or 48 sides that we have now that we can put back on our shelf. Another thing that you want to look for, and I mentioned it in my last video, is pay attention to those, to the ounces on the label. So I showed with the pinto beans, I don't have the bag near me, where if you bought like 1 pound, it was, I don't remember the exact amount, so I'm just going to make it up. But if you want to see the exact amounts, it's in the last video. So it was like $1 a pound, and it brought it out to like 5.4 cents per ounce. But if you bought the 2-pounder, it was $1.98, and I think it went down to like, it was like 6.2. And then if you bought the big 4-pound bag, it went down even lower to like 5.2 cents per pound. So the larger, even though the larger is more money up front, you're saving money in the long run because it is less per ounce. So that's kind of always how I look at things when I'm buying. And make sure when the sales are going on too, that sometimes, like I have Vino Weenies up there. Sometimes Vino Weenies will go on sale for like 88 cents a can. And the 6-packs will be like $5.99 on sale. So you gotta kind of add up too and make sure that, when you're buying, is it better to buy the 6-pack at that moment, or is the sale price the better deal? So do the math. I know math sucks, but when you're in the grocery store, it really, really makes a big impact, especially on your budget. So, Remington is trying to, or that's Rhodey. Rhodey's trying to peek in here on us. So another thing you want to think about is having stuff that's shelf stable. So if we have a power outage or anything like that, you want to make sure that you don't open your fridge or your freezer as much as possible during power outages. So how are some things that you can have on your shelf to limit that opening and closing of the refrigerator? So one of the things that I like to keep is the canned meats. I don't think you can see it up there, but we do keep a lot of like canned salmon, a lot of oysters. There's some Keystone beef and turkey up there. And then we also keep shelf stable milk. And so that's one of the things that I bought at our during our Walmart trip this week, because it was sorry, let me check the chat here for just a second. So it was one of the things that I was missing from my stockpile. We had went through what we already had. There's Remington. And so I needed to grab some more to put on our shelf. So this is one of those things that you can keep. So if there's a milk shortage for some reason, or maybe you just can afford milk that week, but 2 weeks ago you bought this pack, now you have a little bit of milk. I've also used this when I'm in the middle of cooking dinner and there's no milk, or I don't have enough milk. I know that this is on my shelf. So this is getting rotated out. It doesn't just sit there and go to waste on our shelves. But it's also a way that you can avoid, opening your refrigerator during a power outage. Just like I said about running out of milk when you're in the middle of dinner. Remington is over here like, Mom, pay attention to me. Remington. Another thing that you want to keep in your stockpile that's pretty easy to do is salt. There's not a whole lot of ways to get salt naturally in the wild other than eating meat. So if there is some sort of grid down situation, you definitely want to have a stockpile of salt on hand. So this is one of the things that I picked up at the Dollar Tree, because you get a whole pound of pink Himalayan salt for $1. Supposedly this expires on July 2028, but I don't think real salt really has an expiration date, especially if it's 100% natural. Let's see, some of the other things that we got at Walmart this week. The Dollar Tree, I did pick up these milks, if you saw. The chocolate milk was okay. Chris said no right in, but I think it just reminds me of Ovaltine. But these milks are awesome, and they're shelf stable for over a year. They're hard to find I know at least around here, as soon as they hit the shelves, they sell out. So I was pretty lucky to find the last 3 on the shelves. So if you see these in your Dollar Tree, definitely worth picking up. And for the same reasons as the dried milk, if you're cooking dinner and you run out of milk, you don't have to worry about going to the store because you have some on hand. And so we did pick up the beans, the green beans, and the corn, and then I did pick up a large bag of rice. We were getting kind of low on our stock here, so I went ahead and grabbed a 20-pound bag. I'm probably gonna Mylar most of that. It's mainly just Chris and I eating these days. Our daughter is nearly grown, and so she doesn't hardly eat at home anymore. So what I'll do probably tomorrow is I'll take some of these Mylar bags and I will portion it out into, say, what we would eat in a normal month. And so I'll use these with some oxygen absorbers just to make sure that it stays fresh for the next probably year, hopefully a year. So yeah, so there's a lot of other things that I purchased last week. Tomatoes were on sale, so we went ahead and stocked up on that. So basically, just as you see it go on sale, that's when you know just to buy an extra can here, an extra can there. Don't feel like you need to go to the store and buy, 1,000 cans of green beans all at one time, or that you need to go and buy every single one of their meat products that are on sale. Just buy a little bit at a time. Hey, Mike, how are you? We are doing well. But yeah, just make sure that you buy just a little bit at a time, because there's no reason to panic buy. Remy's over here distracting me again. So yeah, just a little bit at a time. So like all of this stuff that you see on the shelf wasn't purchased in one grocery store trip. This was purchased over like, a month, maybe 6 weeks of grocery store trips. And this was just me adding, if I saw, like I said last week, the diced tomatoes were on sale. So instead of, I bought like 8 cans of each because they were down to like 88 cents. So look for those sales, especially this time of year, and just stock up little by little. I know there's a lot of people now really starting to get into preparedness. I've had a lot of comments on this channel and also on our TikTok channel of people that, never thought about preparing or thought it was all crazy conspiracy theories. So I just really want to reiterate that you should be prepared as an adult. And even if you're on some sort of assistance, you should still budget properly and make sure that you have that food put back for times like this that's coming up. So I just wanted to hop up on here and say hello to everyone and do a quick little live. We'll probably do another one. Oh, Mike said canned food will last for a long time if you store it properly. That is true. We actually had some cans rust in the pantry, in the camper. So I don't know if it was like water got spilt or something underneath the dining room table, but they were in like a normal, like the boxes that you get at Costco. And when I pulled them out, like half of them are rusted. So yeah, proper storage is the way to go. And someone asked yesterday if I thought it was okay to store in a shed, and I would not do that. Unless it's air conditioned. She said hers was insulated, but it didn't have heat or air. and I for sure would not store it in anywhere that's not air conditioned. We did kind of come up with the idea that you could bury like a deep freezer or old junky refrigerator. You could bury that as like some sort of root cellar and store it in there. So with the rusty cans, I just ended up giving them to my chickens. It just wasn't worth the risk. I wouldn't trust a rusty can because that is how you could get, like, there could have been botulism introduced or maybe tetanus, maybe? Tetanus comes from, well, the dirt, but yeah, I would be wary over rust. If you're in a pinch and that's all you got, eat it. But these are just a little bit too far gone for me, so they got fed to the chickens. They had a good week worth of snacks. Yeah, they weren't bulging. They were just, I don't know, they looked really gross. And I didn't want to take the chances. But yeah, if it was a dire situation, I probably wouldn't have tossed them. But I just was like, I'm gonna let them go. And like I said, those chickens went crazy over it. Like there was like 7 cans, and so every day in the morning I would just open the door and throw one out. And so by like the second or third day, they were like waiting on the porch. So I think I have them trained now where they think every time you open the door, they're gonna get a snack. But yeah, so I mean, eat it if you want, but I just didn't think it was, I don't know, freaked me out a little bit. But you are right. As long as it's not bulging, it's probably fine. And when you buy cans, you want to make sure that, try to get ones that don't have any dents or anything in them, because that can shorten the shelf life on them. But yeah, I don't really ever go by the dates. I like to watch those videos. Like, do you ever watch those videos on, like those people that open up those old rations? And like some of it still looks fine. But there was one that I saw that was like old peaches, like 50-year-old peaches. And they opened it up and it was like black. It was gross. But I like watching those. Those are funny. But yeah, I would be careful with the dented cans, Mike, because that is how you can introduce botulism. Just because it's something about like the way that there could be like an air bubble that can go in there. Mike says the dented can thing's an old wives' tale. I don't know. I beg to differ, because so it's just like you wouldn't want to compromise your home canned goods either. So that's why they say that, like, when you home can, you're supposed to take the metal lid off of it and just leave that lid on top, the ring. So just take the ring off of it, because if you don't do that, one, it'll rust and it can compromise your product, and then 2, if you leave it on there and the seal pops and you don't know, that ring will make it look like it's still sealed, and that's how you can risk botulism, even though botulism is super rare. But yeah, I would just be careful with dented cans. Those are usually, if I have dented cans that I accidentally get from the grocery store, that's the first ones I use up. Yeah, so I don't keep them around long. They're the first ones gone. Let me see. I haven't quite figured this whole app out yet. I can see your messages when they come up, like live chat. Okay, there it goes. Okay, I can see it now. I didn't have it up, the chat up here on the side here. So Mike said he's been prepping for over 18 years. That's about when me and my husband started too. Back before it was a TV show and had a name. Before I didn't even know we were prepping, I had always like had extra food and flashlights and, all the stuff. And then that show Doomsday Prepper come out, and like I was watching it and I was like, we already do that. So, but yeah, I didn't even know it was a name. I just honestly thought it was something that like everyone did, I think it wasn't until like maybe COVID that I realized that how many people are unprepared in this world, which is crazy sad. But yeah, I thought that like having a working pantry was normal, normal business. So, but yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say this evening. I've got some ideas for some videos coming out this week, next week. I know some people have asked about the power that we run here, and it has been raining, so I haven't been able to film any of our solar power stuff outside. So once it clears up and it's not a muddy mess outside, I'll do a video on the power that we use here, or how we power our home here. And then we'll work on some videos this week, mainly dealing with the shortages, just to try to help ease people's fears about any sort of upcoming shortages. So, all right, well, thank y'all for joining me this evening. I really appreciate it. And we will check y'all later.